Welcome back, everybody, to the Snobs Reviews, where we check out new movies that come out each week, and we let you know what we think about them. And make sure that if you haven't seen the movie, check out and then come back after you see it, because these are spoiler reviews and we're going to have a good time talking about them. Today, we are talking about Spider-Man, Brand New Day, directed by Destin Daniel Cretton and starring, of course, Tom Holland. Zendaya's back for it. John Bernthal's in there. Jacob Batalon's back as Ned, and so many more. We had a really good time. One of the big additions is Sadie Sink, and she's playing the villain in the movie. But who could she be? Jean Grey. We'll let you know because this is a spoiler review.
She's just great.
I feel like after a month, people should know. And we've done a straightforward review on this already with no spoilers. You can go check that out if you need to. But we are going to get into it about this one because we really had a good time with this. So really, it's continues off of No Way Home. Nobody remembers Peter Parker, but Spider-Man's out there doing the work, and we're getting glimpses of a lot of great covers from back in the day. Not great comics, but some great covers.
Great covers with great memories. I mean, we get the amazing stories right out the gate, or amazing tales. You know, that was wonderful. I love that they really did turn this into a focus on this friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He is the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He spent so many years trying to become that, you know, trying to limit what he did and was, because he starts by fighting Captain America. That's our first intro to this Spider-Man. So it's so big. He's so large right out the gate. And then he's part of the Thanos Infinity War. And he's done so much. So to see him in this role, to bring it back to that friendly neighborhood, was fantastic. And we got some cool street level characters, man.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that our first introduction to this Spider-Man was him fighting against Captain America and his team. And the reason that always stuck with me is sort of like, I enjoyed it. I understand where it was coming from. But in the comics, when you saw Peter Parker reveal his identity because of the registration, he was on Team Iron Man at the time. He changed. He realized that wasn't a good way, and that wasn't the right way, and that he was sort of manipulated by Tony Stark, who was playing the father figure, but didn't care about him like the one in the films did. So, and there's a great comic where Captain America and Iron Man are facing off against each other talking, and they bring that up. They're like, you knew that kid was always looking for a father, and you stepped in and you did that and you manipulated. So with that being his first introduction, my idea of Spider-Man and the way it's always been is like what we saw in No Way Home when he's fighting Strange. Yeah. Like, this is wrong, and I'm going to fight everyone who's doing something that, in my opinion, is wrong. Yeah. And he is right. And Spider-Man has always been the pillar in every form of Marvel of that greatness. That great power comes with great responsibility, and he lives by that code. And even Captain America abandons his code at certain times in this. Spider-Man never wavers. Even in No More, Spider-Man No More, he came back in the same comic realizing Spider-Man needed to be there. He needed to find the balance. And which is sort of like touches down on this one as well, and things like that. Him needing to find a balance because he has found himself completely abandoning Peter Parker's identity and not really having anything to do with it. Yeah, and he's just alone. He's isolated. He's very unhealthily following his friends' lives and living vicariously through them, and then being Spider-Man to the point where his body is mutating. Yeah. You know, he's turning more into the spider, the arachnid side of things, and it's having a bad toll. At first,
it wears on him. I mean, it's a strange thing to have happen, and the fact that we've gone through all these eras with Tom Holland's Spider-Man, especially going back to the Strange one where he's able to fight Strange using science, I think is absolutely fantastic. It shows you the level of Peter Parker, his intelligence, how smart he is, how adaptable he is. So for him to be mutating into the spider, what a great way to introduce mutants by having a character we love actually mutate, which at one point does happen, although it's one of his clones in the comic books. But yes, the mutation does happen to Spider-Man. So
yeah, and to add to your point, I was going to add to your point to Stephen Strange when he's fighting him and the way he's using the math. That is the most Peter Parker, the best version of Peter Parker I have seen on screen yet.
I will agree 100%.
And it was just that scene, not that movie. Even in this one, like more so, like he is more. The reason Spider-Man never needed the AI in his ear is because he can figure it all out on his own. He is that smart, and he's never given that credit like you get a Reed Richards and such as they are. I mean, but he is the guy who outthinks everyone, but he also keeps within his boundaries. And that's something I've always appreciated about this character a great deal. And in this movie, I feel like they've expanded on that more. And I didn't need the AI.
Yeah, the AI wasn't necessary, but it is a fun character throwaway to throw something in there, which I'm fine with. I'm good with it.
Yeah, connection there, man.
Yeah, they wanted that connection, and we needed that connection to be able to build into who is this Peter Parker and Spider-Man going to become. And who we get is brilliant, because it's the Peter Parker who sacrifices himself no matter what, all the time, every time, to the nth degree, to the point where we are annoyed by it. We are frustrated by it, because he's just generally that good a guy. He understands where he stands. He finally has figured out where he kind of fits in. And it's unfortunate, but he's trying to figure that balance out. And I think it's but what a great allegory for work-life balance, right? You got to figure it out. Otherwise, you mutate into something completely different.
Exactly. You just become a shell of your old self, sitting there with black eyes, not wondering what happened, and you're beating people up to a pulp.
Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time. It's
like this movie,
Fight Club of it.
This movie, I thought, handled that side of like young men and their isolation and how that goes, and like living life on screen and not really willing to connect with your identity of being just a human being in the world today. Like, because Spider-Man is above that. Spider-Man literally is a masked man. There is no identity. So to lose Peter Parker, and in today's world where we see manosphere, red pill stuff so much, like it was nice to see again, that pillar of goodness and responsibility and such, kind of going through that and not losing his way, kind of being shook in his ways, but not losing it. Because even like, when he sees Mary Jane and Ned, they're living their lives, they're doing their thing, and he starts following them and stuff. Like, I mean, you're kind of like, well, all right, where's this going? But he doesn't overreact. Never overreacts. That's the thing.
He doesn't overreact, and it is a great sort of statement on where we are today, where you have to have that balance. You have to be able to get out into the world, because continuing to do that through the screen, that living vicariously bit, you see him suffer for it even more. So when he kind of gets up a way to make that connection, and he's playing Legos with them as Spider-Man, was amazing. That was such a wonderful little scene, and just what a good element to throw in there. So I was happy with it. They did that balance side very well,
and they balanced it against the Punisher,
exactly,
and the Hulk. Honestly, if you want to think about it, and it's a beautiful way where the Punisher completely. He is Frank Castle, but he's leaning into the Punisher. And we saw that with his own special and such. Like, now he's the Punisher. But you saw Frank come in, like in Spider-Man, inspire Frank being there, having some familiar, relationship that they kind of can feed off of each other and not feel so alone. But then when he meets the Hulk, who is completely abandoned his Hulk side and is trying to suppress it in such a way which never worked, and then blows up in his face. I thought that juxtaposition of both those characters being added in. So that's what he needs to accept, like both sides of himself.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
Be able
to see that and to feel that and to have that experience. So I just want to throw out there that was an amazing John Bernthal, Frank Castle. He was the most Punisher, comic book version Punisher we've ever seen, with Spider-Man playing off perfectly the way he did in the comic books. They played so well buddy cop, and also both pushing the line and seeing where the line is clearly, and the thing I love about Frank Castle is they didn't nerf the Punisher at all. He still is a hammer and everything's a nail, and he can answer it with a gun. So I love that. That was perfect.
I think this is my favorite version of Punisher on screen for sure. I will say in the comics, they could get pretty ruthless. And they did pull back, but when it was just Punisher. I know what you mean by him being with Spider-Man. Yes, that what was hit on, and that's what. And I think like a lot of the TV show and those specials, and some of the older movies were going towards those darker comic storylines.
Yes,
which I got, but we're not meant. Like, if he's first of all, that Punisher will never work in this MCU. Because he has to be stopped, and nobody's just going to let him go. Like in the comics, you're like, there's so many people he's always hiding. He's always hiding from heroes too. He'll come in and help him when he needs to, but for the most part, he doesn't have this relationship. Spider-Man, because his first appearance was in a Spider-Man comic where he's trying to hunt him down, under false pretense. But it was one of those things where like this is, if you're gonna go forward, please stop trying to make him so dark, because it's also inconsistent the way they make him dark. Like he comes out of it, then he's back in it, then he comes out. He's been wrestling Frank Castle and the Punisher for so long, to the point where he's accepted being the Punisher, and he's downplayed it and then accepted being the Punisher in every season of a show and his special. And now it's like, just keep him here.
I think that was the point of the special. I think that was the point of the special, was to get him into that point where it was the last kill, you know, the whole title even tells you, because that was the last time where he was doing it for the wrong reason. You know, he was past sort of that level of vengeance, and now he was into the full punishment. You know, he was, and once we got past that and to the point where no, this isn't no longer about what he's dealing with. This is about doing it for others now. So I did love that, because it did take a while. I agree. They wrestled too much with it. So to have that special was just enough to get us over the hump, to prepare us for him in this movie, where he is the Punisher. He is not that vigilante. He's a vigilante, but it's not a vengeance vigilante. He's not going after his own revenge. He's going out after bad guys and handling things the way he handles business.
And yes, to your point, yes, I do think that was the point, but it was so like, to get to that point with the rest of the special, I'm like, you really pushed some boundaries, and we did this. And I think it was because we did this in Daredevil, then we did it in the Punisher show, and then we did it in other area. And it's like, you keep doing it and keep going back and forth. So like, my issue is, I think writers who because they spaced them out and they didn't actually do them well enough, like pull together and have one through storyline and say, John, this is who it's going to be, and that's where we are, and we build off of that. I think writers stepped in and were like, well, we want that badass Punisher vibe. And it's like, I get it, but like, he was badass in this, and he didn't kill anyone.
Exactly. Super badass in this. You know? And that lends me to the next point, which is we get Bruce Banner. And I loved how much Bruce Banner we got, because we got the scientist Bruce Banner, we got the smart Hulk, who was really, the Banner Hulk, who was, kind of struggling with that. When he's like the big guy's getting out, the other guy's coming. I think we've had so much time to embrace and be aware of exactly who Bruce Banner is versus the Hulk, to then get the Hulk back out after trying to be suppressed. We know he's going to have struggles. He's going to be mad. And for me, I wasn't as excited to see it go full Hulk. I was excited for the fight, because this is the fight that made my entire viewing experience, because this is the way the battles were done between Hulk and Spider-Man. Hulk never won. But Spider-Man never won either. They just always fight to a standstill, where Peter Parker gets beat up pretty good, but he's also able to eventually get away, or he figures a way out. And it's usually outsmarting, outthinking, outworking him. So to have between Stephen Strange in the last movie and then Hulk in this movie, I was like, they are just giving me my comic book loves in the best way possible.
They are in the Spider-Man movies. My problem with Hulk as of late is that you were so inconsistent with him. Last time he was Professor Hulk when he had that suppressor on. Right. And that was in and then he didn't have it after it got damaged in She-Hulk. And then like you saw him at the end of Shang-Chi and he didn't have it. He was in human form. So it's like, make up your mind, because he also now has a son that was introduced in She-Hulk. Yeah. So is that just abandoned? What's going on? Like, are we not doing anything with it? Because this is a beautiful story that you can tell with the Hulk, especially after this, where he has been suppressing it and he realizes he truly can't, and he got mind controlled again, because the first time was Scarlet Witch. So this is a big deal, but they're not like, that's where I think, like with the Punisher and the Hulk, it falls flat for me, is because what are you going to do with them next? Where do you go with this next? Does he go back to killing on his own show in like ruthless fashion, which I don't want that John Wick style for him anymore. This was interesting. This was good. This can be built off. Maybe there's some redemption for Frank. And I'm not saying he has to redeem himself. He can still be the Punisher. He can still take people out. But maybe when he's doing it, like when he has the gun on Sadie Sink's Jean Grey character, he's like, I'm doing this because it needs to be done. But he's justifying it to himself. It is it is punishment. Everything she did, this is what she deserves. And then like shooting Spider-Man because he saved her, if that doesn't change him going forward, then this was worth nothing.
No, I don't think it was worth nothing. I disagree there, because I think I
don't think it was worth nothing. What I'm saying is, if they change it back
no,
in the future, then it was worth nothing.
No, he has to still continue being Punisher. We have to have this straight through line. This cannot change. This is who Punisher needs to be.
Well, the same Punisher?
Yes, I would love this Punisher.
that's what I'm saying, though. In the shows, it was so inconsistent. So if they go back to that, because
Right.
you have John Bernthal, the dude was in the 2 highest grossing movies of the year. He's going to be the Punisher again, and he loves this character.
Absolutely.
But who are we getting? And that's what scares me about Marvel, because it's Marvel.
Oh, okay.
This was Sony and Marvel.
Yeah, fair.
So like for me, and like with the Hulk, it's the same way. It's like you've done so much with this great character and then kind of left them by the wayside. Where do you go now? This was a big deal for the Hulk. Is he in hiding? Yeah. Is it like the show where he's traveling around now and he's just trying to keep his calm, like the first movie? it like, again, you go back to these things where it's like, there's inconsistencies, and like, but that's the beauty about Spider-Man. The reason this works is because you just delivered what we like. And I think that's more a call to action for me right now, is like, we like this, keep it up. Don't screw it up.
Especially don't mess up with the X-Men, because you gave us, let's jump into Jean Grey, because I think she was fantastic.
To introduce that real quick because I want to hear your point. But she is the top of the diamond, where we just talked about the juxtaposition of Punisher at the two sides of the coin when it comes to the Punisher and Hulk and Peter Parker and Spider-Man. She fully accepts who she is. She is Jean Grey and I have powers. I'm a mutant. I have a theory, which I will talk about after. I want to hear your point first with her, and we'll talk about that. But I do have a theory about Jean Grey I want to put out there just to see if it's possible. But what did you think about Jean Grey as that sort of foil in this, and how she pulled it off?
So for me, this was a fascinating turn on the mutants, because there is a situation where Jean Grey is discovered this way. She has a big mind explosion, basically, and everything freezes. And I can't remember if it's freezes or what exactly she does, that she takes control. But they did that wonderfully. They show the power of Jean Grey, the power of mutants in general. So now we've seen Spider-Man mutate. We've seen Jean Grey be a mutant, her sister be a mutant, which not exactly comic book accurate, but they played it very well. Sadie Sink does a great job in this role. She plays very good in doing how she does it, how Jean Grey would do it, as I would think, in that level of vengeance and anger and torment and hurt, and really plays it on screen perfectly. I do have to say, from the perspective of the overall power of the mutants, I think they're nailing it. It's important to understand that the reason humans are afraid of mutants is because the level of damage they can cause is catastrophic and massive. So an unchecked power like this would be terrifying. So whatever world we're about to have in 2028 when they bring the X-Men movie forward, I'm hoping we see some seriously hardcore power behind these mutants. And I'm glad we got to experience that and see that, to what degree they can go to. So I think all in all, it was fantastic. And I really enjoyed her being the foil and turning that the government agencies are always the bad guys. Yeah. Always the bad guys. Like Peter Parker even calls it out at one point. He's like, well, whenever people ask me to do this, they usually wind up being the bad guy. And it's like, yeah, no, just 100%. That's exactly who you are. So I
thought it was pretty cool too, because we did get damage control in No Way Home and dealing with that, and then him having to deal with them and being, in a lot of trouble after Mysterio and such. And I didn't mind it, but then you get to Wonder Man, where you're really like, oh, they're just locking people up, and they're using people, and it's a problem. And then She-Hulk kind of touched down on it a bit too, and things like that. But then you get here, and they're everywhere. This is a true federal organization that was supposed to be independent, but quickly you can tell is a huge problem, and they're doing a lot of dastardly things. So having them going forward as this sort of ominous big bad, which really isn't how it's played in the comics, that more so maybe in more recent years, but back in the day it was just a way to explain this is how everything gets fixed.
They were the sort of fumbling idiots who just cleaned up the mess, who were just sort of that task force who came in behind the scenes,
Yeah, which I think the earliest is after Avengers, after the Battle of New York and Avengers. Like there was a short, I think Jesse Bradford starred in it, where they find an alien weapon and they start robbing banks with it and stuff, and like Damage Control has to come in and find it, and then of course Spider-Man has really built on this quite a bit, even in the first one with them coming in and taking over Vulture's business and such. So for this one, for them to be as big as they are now, this big entity that's sort of out there and now is going to be a big problem, and the fact that he had a big problem with mutants, like he wanted to learn how to control them, I think they might be the big bad going forward with X-Men. You know,
I could see that. Yeah, because I mean that may be working with Boulevard Trask.
Yep.
And they open up the Sentinel system that way 100%. I could absolutely see that. And it's a good way to option out of Hydra. You know, now that Hydra is kind of the big bad that's gone after infiltrating S.H.I.E.L.D. and all that's well behind us. It's like, well, then there's a void. There's a vacuum. And people hate a vacuum. So that vacuum gets filled with damage control. And I think it was done wonderfully seamlessly. It's definitely added a lot to it. And knowing that Sword still kind of exists out there in some way, shape, or form. I think those two as being sort of your general foils moving forward is that they did a great job and they've set some good groundwork. So we'll see what happens going forward with those.
Yeah, and honestly, when it comes to movies like this and like how it played it off, I thought Tillman, first of all, brought this gravitas. Travis Tillman, who played the main, who ran this division of damage control, and he was the one that took Jean Grey and her sister, and not at the same time, of course, but and was trying to control them. I really feel like hopefully that opens up what with going on with the X-Men, because and this is my theory. This is leaning into my theory of like what I think might happen is I hope Doom ends up not only needing Franklin, but maybe manipulates sort of the same way he didn't manipulate Spider-Man, but the way Iron Man sort of mentored Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Maybe Doom will try and mentor, but with manipulation on Jean Grey, right?
Yeah, which is totally possible.
Help him control and build Battle World, and work and maybe get into Franklin's mind and such. And then again, this is all theory, all conjecture. Nothing is sound. I just want to see it. And I think that would be a good lead in to this Jean Grey meeting Charles Xavier, played by Patrick Stewart, and the other X-Men, and seeing like what that team looks like and who she was as a part of that team in this different world. And hopefully it'll open up the door to her trying to find her Charles Xavier and the other mutants.
Yeah, exactly. Because then they'll have that opening. We know that Emma Frost being played by Samara Weaving. How awesome is that? Super excited for that.
Perfect.
All that casting coming out. Adam Driver, we get a Mr. Sinister story, which, buddy, you're checking all the boxes for me. We're getting.
It is kind of funny that Mr. Sinister over there, Mr. Driver, was like, I'll never do Marvel.
And then he gets Marvel because that paycheck, and then plus, I mean, he's like me, we're big X-Men guys, so getting a good X-Men storyline is going to be exciting, and I do think they'll be able to hammer through a battle world with the X-Men. So we're going to get something from that too.
Nice.
So I'm excited to see where that's going to come. One of the things that, back to this movie real quick for me, you brought up Bill Metzger's character played by Trammell Tillman, did a fantastic job. Florence Pugh getting some Yelena Belova in there, knowing that continuity is still going forward. Hilarious, by the way, as always. I think she plays that character flawlessly. It's wonderful to see her. We got Keith David in there, narrating a friggin' Spider video, which was hilarious. But one for me that really topped it all was Michael Mando playing friggin' Scorpion, dude. We got Scorpion as just a Scorpion who's one of the Sinister Six. This is one of the big main baddies for Spider-Man. So to see him having gone up against him in the past, that he's consistently an issue, and that he was pretty awesome, was really fantastic for me. It was a good foil, and I'm glad we got to see him, as well as Tombstone briefly. In the beginning was a fun little nod. So they showed they did a good job showing Spider-Man still going against these sort of superhuman, and how that's still a thing in the arena of this world.
I some gripes that I hear on the internet and that I kind of agree with is like, how did he make his money? Now I can suspend disbelief and say, okay, a genius can make it. On the internet today, they can do it. You know, crypto, whatever else it is, they're going to do it. But say that, because the comic did such a good job with him having to balance a job and everything else, at the Daily Bugle. And even in the earlier movies, like when he's a pizza delivery guy and things like that, like balancing that really worked, I think. This, I understand wanting to get rid of the Peter Parker side, but then just be like, like have Mary Jane just be like, well, how do you pay for all this? Or like, what are you doing? How do you keep yourself going? It's like, I just got into crypto and it helps. And, it just keeps things afloat, like I try to do it little by little, but they didn't touch on that. And like, I don't mind a lot of people arguing like, how does he have such high tech equipment? I'm like, he's Tony Stark, like literally they proved it in Iron Man 3. He can go anywhere and figure out what he's got to do and find what he needs and put it together. And Peter Parker can do that. And they even made the joke in Ironheart where it was like, she's like, I don't have Tony Stark's money. It's like, and I get what they're saying, their classist system of it, but at the same time, it's like, and I wasn't mad that she said it or anything like that, but I was like, but you're taking away from the idea of like, it's the intelligence that helps them get this and do this.
I don't think that, I think they defended that. I'm going to say I saw that in a different way. The way I took that when they said it was very much so more like, well, she doesn't need that money. Like if she had that money, it would make it easier. Yeah. But she has to find her own way about to get things. And I think Spider-Man is similar in that. But in this world, I also like to think that, you know, someone was taking care of Spider-Man, like angel investors. I'm sure there's a weird GoFundMe that he's given access to, something along the way.
But then say it. But my thing is, if you don't say it, anything is there. And like the thing I'll give to Ironheart is they said it, and I get what they were going for in that series, and it was a good series. I don't understand why people put it down. But that line negates the fact that he had to go through that in Iron Man 3 and lose all this stuff and be stuck in a place by himself. And then when you get to here, that line also says about Peter Parker is like, well, I guess it doesn't make sense. Like it makes it different because then that should have been a line that he said as well.
That's fair.
You know, or something like that. Like instead of just her saying it or like kind of reinforce her line. But they didn't do that
I can agree with that.
And honestly, you introduced J. Jonah Jameson and he has a news organization. Why couldn't you make the guy be like, oh, how you making money? Oh, I edited his photos for him.
Something
for his videos or something like that. Like I just
what if he wound up, it'd be funnier if he wound up the producer of the show, of the podcast. That would have been great. That would have been amazing. I
can tell you by editing photos for money and editing videos for money, I couldn't afford any apartment in New York, but but honestly, it's one of those things where it doesn't irk me or anything. I can just like kind of let it go. And I think people do pick things apart, but it's because it's been reinforced in other areas that maybe you should just throw a freaking line in there or something. Like, you know, if you're not going to show us, like, throw a line in there because that is also a lot of computing power for a small rickety apartment.
For that apartment, the amount of power that he's pulling, man, he's got some serious gear in there. So I'd be curious what that electric bill looks like.
Oh boy. So you got to give us something, especially this day and age when prices are up.
Amen.
But then ultimately, like when it comes to this movie, the gripes aren't a lot. I do wish that they sort of built on Mary Jane and Ned more instead of making them sort of like obtuse characters.
Sure.
Because you really like the connection between Peter and Mary Jane is great, and what's going on there. But what is her dreams? What is her life? Like she just has a throwaway boyfriend where it's like, oh, you know, he would just kind of bug me or do this. It's like it seemed very, I don't know, shallow in terms of building out a character for her, you know.
Fair. I think they were just trying to hammer so much into her, and they were trying to keep, you know, the connection there that Peter has for her, and we're seeing it through Peter's eyes, so it is kind of shallow. I think that was almost done because we only see her through the screen character. So then at the end, when she's missing a massive part of her life. I think that almost goes into a mental health kind of situation where she has these massive gaps that whatever great happiness she felt, she can't remember the freaking person she felt them with. So it's a weird thing. That's why her sitting on the bridge at the end holding that broken Black Dahlia was just amazing. I think that
which I had assumed when what's her name held them hostage, probably put those memories back or unlock something.
I mean, same with that's why when Ned and them do the hand thing, like the fact that they just have that muscle memory, you know, that was a beautiful moment. And, you know, then he's kind of opening up and unlocking things himself. So it gives the hope and possibility that you can come back from that. You know, it's very a la Chuck and Sarah, the way they end, that there is that hope moment that possibly something it is coming back to them. So
and it's set up with the Hulk too, because when he's holding him and he's like, it's your friend, it's Peter, which still makes no sense because they've never had an interaction.
Well, they have.
When?
During Infinity War.
What was the interaction?
Didn't they have an interaction?
There was like 7,000 people fighting. They never talked.
Or maybe Endgame. No, that's fair. Maybe they didn't. Yeah.
Like the only thing I could think of like is he would know about Peter through Tony, but we've never seen it. And I think that's where my biggest, because if it's on screen, then we know it. It exists. If it's not on screen, we can speculate all we want, but
it's all speculation. Yeah.
And I think that's where for me it was like that probably isn't how I would have ended it, or if he said it's Peter Parker, you know, or something like, you know, Tony's friend, or, you know, so that way like it might have clicked a little bit more because he's being mind controlled and that can be opened.
That's fair.
But again, it's just some little things in this, where I was just like, you really focused on Peter well, character development, built him out well, did a good job, but then like aspects, I'm like, which the reason I bring them up is because they were always aspects that were covered in the comics.
True. There were, but I think that also, it's going to lend itself to problems for us because we were such big avid comic book readers of Spider-Man, love Spider-Man. So we want the whole story filled in. And I think that's the beauty and the difficulty in going into the movies is there's always things left out that we will see and we will want deeper and more of. I think what this does for everyone else is it gives everyone enough. You know what I mean? Yes, we can get in and dig deep, but for everybody, for the mass audiences, it nailed it. And it did a beautiful job giving that character to everyone. Now fully understanding, which they didn't quite do in the original Toby's. They hinted at it. They tried to play with it, but they never really gave us the level of what Spider-Man had to go through. The Andrew Garfields didn't really give that either. You know, the Andrew Garfields did. It did a good job showing. Yeah, we didn't get to see that third one. It requires a third movie. I still will bang that drum. I think Andrew Garfield deserves a third Spider-Man. We need a third. It'd be fun. It would be great.
It'd be a lot of fun. My thing with just a little pushback on that is I get that, but this isn't the same Mary Jane we grew up.
Oh, true.
So, yes, and that's fine.
Different character. Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't feel like I know her. I feel like she's always been just a friend of Spider-Man. And Ned, I feel like we've got to know more. But then in this one was drawn back on. I'm like I felt like he was more in the forefront for the first three movies. And she was like secondary in that friendship to Peter. And then in this one, it changed, of course, because they were in a relationship and they cared about each other. And I get why. I'm not upset by that. But I care more about learning more about them than I do about the others.
That's fair. I get that.
And I think that's where, and like Sadie Sink was fine, like with Jean Grey, because you have to give some background with there and such. But even like that was just very quick. Yeah. So and I'm not saying that it had to be scenes you have to add and make it longer or anything like that. It flowed well. It was fine. It's just, you could have done this with lines, just like real quick, just like, oh, not just stuff that suits the moment, but really builds out the character. So
that's fair.
I hope in the next one, it's not so filled with so much. I realize they have to have a Marvel character in there, at least one, because that's other than Spider-Man, because that's how the deal works out. But maybe like Stephen Strange, where he comes back and forth every once in a while, and is then filled with another one, which is my big arguments with the originals. Too many villains, too many characters.
Oh, yeah. They try to overdo. That was the problem with Spider-Man 3, was shoehorning in Venom. That was the problem. Like, whenever they add too many, like it definitely waters down what you have and what you're working with. So I agree. But I think this one, bang for my buck, this hit all my stops. I'd be really curious what you have for final review on it.
So for me, this is a fantastic movie. It was really well done. It's a great popcorn movie. I'm not writing home saying like this is the greatest achievement in cinematic filmmaking of all time. But as a Spider-Man film, I'm still teetering because Spider-Man 2 is truly amazing.
Which Spider-Man 2?
The original Spider-Man 2.
Oh yeah,
Tobey Maguire.
Doc Ock, man. That is one of the seminal Spider-Man movies.
Yes, and so like, and in my opinion, first and second are Into the Spider-Verse movies. If we're talking all Spider-Man,
I agree. Yeah,
this is either third or fourth, depending on how I feel. I need to watch it again, I think, to really get the idea of like how I feel about it, because I've seen Spider-Man 2 so many times, and like it truly is. That's a movie I will just go back to on its own. I don't need to watch everything. It's just a fantastic film. And again, it checks all the boxes. And to kind of compare, in my review of this, like I know as much about MJ in these movies after 4 movies that I know about, and Ned, than I know about Eddie Brock, played by Topher Grace, or Bryce Dallas Howard's Gwen Stacy.
Yeah.
And that's but that's a problem. They only had one movie. And I was pissed off in that one movie because I'm like, these are 2 insanely important characters. And you barely given me any sort of backstory to them or anything. You just set up the character. And the same with this. It's like, you've given me 4 movies where I'm like, there's been character development with his arc with their arc with Peter.
Yes.
But not character development in themselves and who they are, except for Ned, who they kind of touched down on, has maybe a little bit of magic, but it felt like a plot device because you didn't even touch down on it in this.
Well, because I guess it's weird that he would have forgotten that. Yeah. It's one thing to forget Spider-Man, but it's another thing you forgot you do magic.
But he didn't forget Spider-Man. He forgot Peter Parker. Remember everything they remember. They remember Night Monkey. They remember Spider-Man. They remember all those interactions, but it's anything with Peter's fog. And when it comes down to it, like, yes, I understand the magic with that, but he was meeting 2 other Spider-Men.
True. And he was also interacting with Mary Jane while he was doing it. He used his magic in other ways without Peter around. So you figure he should have that relative memory.
And so, and with that, like his grandmother would have remembered Spider-Man crawling around her house and stuff like that. So like, so it's just questions, and it's like, and those questions come with the fact that you didn't develop these characters or touch down on it after that. And I wish you did, because, or at least I hope you will.
Right.
Like, I'll give it to you on that. Like, you delivered a good movie, but build off of it, and whatever you built off here, which I hate anyway. I hate the fact that as a fan of the Back to the Future series, I hate the fact that somebody waits and says, well, we'll tell it in the next one. No, tell your story now, because there may never be a next one. Right. And you never know. But so I think that for me, outside of that, I have this movie out of 4 out of 5.
Okay, that's solid.
Because I love the practical effects. I love Tom Holland in this. I loved everybody in this. They were all delivering. It's just some writing issues in terms of the backstory and characters that I feel like were underdeveloped. But other than that, loved it.
Fair. You gave it some depth there. You made me seriously consider from a cinematic angle, like exactly when generally I look at movies in the filmmaking perspective, it didn't really check all the boxes. It left enough holes that I can understand that. I am in the other boat, though. I'm completely emotionally giving this a review of 4.5 for me. It gave me the battle with Hulk. It gave me the Punisher in a really fun comic book sense. We did get the Frank grunts in a weird timing, the Frank grunts at the end when he's dressed up as Spider-Man at the window. Just, oh man, it was wonderful. That is Frank Castle all the time. He's grunts. His joy and anger, violence, grunts are part of his lexicon. I did also love the fact that we got Florence Pugh. All of the people who showed up in this were great. I did enjoy him actually working with the police detective played by Lisa Colon-Zayas. She was wonderful as well. She deserves some call out there. Everything was wonderful in this movie. They definitely had holes, but the fact that we introduced mutants, my favorite part of the MCU, and we got to do it in a Spider-Man movie where we get to see Peter Parker be the absolute Peter Parker, but willing to make every sacrifice. When it comes to, we talk about him sacrificing himself, it is down the line. That's what he'll do. So I really loved it. I think it hit everything I wanted to see. And once again, I can't reiterate the Hulk versus Spider-Man enough. That was just a perfect battle.
All right. I think I'll bump mine up to a 4.5 because I like your excitement on this and it feels good. So I'm gonna join you in that endeavor. I'm gonna say 4.5 out of 5 for me. It's a fantastic film and it's worth watching.
It is. Yeah.
All my gripes are just because when it came to the comics, they covered everything, right? Even in single issues, they covered it.
Yep.
So like, and that's the beauty. Not every comic book did that. Spider-Man was written that well.
Spider-Man did that, and I have to say the X-Men under Chris Claremont, 100%. Those 90s, that 1990s run was just perfect. So we're kind of seeing some of that work its way in, and that beautiful combination is really nice for me. So I love this movie. I think it's worth definitely seeing in the theater. If it's still out by the time you see this, please go watch it. And I hope you get to take the same joy and excitement out of it that we have been able to. Because nothing is perfect, and this is just a darn happy movie.
Yes, honestly, guys, we want to hear what you think, so make sure you comment along. Let us know. Did you love it like we did, or did you hate it? And if you hated it, you got to tell us why. We love the interactions. We love when you guys are not only just joining in for the new reviews, but our old movie reviews, our movie discussions, our podcasts, and so much more when they're live. It's so much fun, and we do appreciate it. So make sure you hit like on this, hit that notification bell, and hit that subscribe button, so that way you know when more great movie reviews and things like that are coming. We love movies, and we know you do too, so join the Snob Nation. And make sure you're following us it's at the Scene Snobs all over social media. Over on Patreon, we have a free tier, or we have paid tiers where you have plenty of perks in there as well. And it all goes back into supporting Build Out the channel. And we just truly appreciate you being around. Thanks again for watching. From Mick and the Madman, we are having a good time doing these reviews. Can't wait to see you on the next one. Make sure you take care of yourselves like the man says, and be kind, rewind, and I'll talk to you soon.
Just wrapping up my podcast.